You got Lil Boosie on the internet causing all this drama, complaining about this movie, talking about it's too gay, they're pushing an agenda and it's woke. But meanwhile, I'm sitting in the theater disappointed because I'm like, man, it's not gay enough. And welcome to my Safe Gayven, everybody. It's still the first week in January, so Happy New Year, everybody. Thank you guys so much for joining me for another year and another video here on the Black Gay Comic Geek channel. But if this is your first time checking out one of my videos and checking out my channel, let me introduce myself. My name is Michael. I call myself the Black Gay Comic Geek, and I always say the things that I love to talk about on my channel has blood, sex, gore, and magic. So I like to talk about nerd stuff. I like to talk about black representation and queer representation. So if that's something that you're interested in, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button, become one of my Safe Gayveneers, help me continue to grow the channel. And you can also help me continue to grow the channel by not only subscribing, but if you're already subscribed, do me a favor, hit that like button. It'll help with the YouTube algorithm, getting this video out there, getting my channel out there, some more eyes to get on my channel, so more people can subscribe to my channel, so I can continue to grow the Black Gay Comic Geek channel. But with that said, even though I just said I love to talk about nerd stuff, I guess this is technically still nerd stuff because I'm a theater nerd, I'm a theater girly. I got my degree in theater performance, and I love me some musicals. So we're here to talk about the musical adaptation of The Color Purple. And when it was announced that they were doing a live action version of the musical, I was excited because I absolutely love this musical. I got to see it twice. Once my school, my alma mater, Florida Agricultural and Mechanical University, HBCU, Historically Black College University, they actually performed it like maybe the year after I graduated. I was hella jealous because I was like, man, I would have loved to have been a part of The Color Purple. But so I went and saw it at my school, and then also they did a revival of it on Broadway, and I got to see it when they brought it back on Broadway. And every single time I love it. I still listen to the soundtrack to this day, so I was hella excited. And I was just like, oh, I know I'm finna cry when I see this movie in the theaters. And so, did I cry? Did I not cry? Did I love it as much as I love the actual Broadway musical? Let's talk about it. So the synopsis for the musical version of The Color Purple is starring Fantasia Barrino as Celie. Torn apart from her sister and her children, Celie faces many hardships in life, including an abusive husband, played by Coleman Domingo as Mr., with support from a sultry singer named Suge Avery, played by Taraji P. Henson, as well as her good, stand her ground stepdaughter, Sophia, played by Danielle Brooks. Celie ultimately finds extraordinary strength in the unbreakable bonds of a new kind of sisterhood. And I will say this movie, I definitely cried while watching this movie, and I did enjoy the movie overall. And I love the costumes. Fantasia as Celie, she was great. I love her as Celie. And you know, Fantasia can sing. I've always wanted to see Fantasia live. Danielle Brooks, all of these characters and actors definitely embodied these characters a lot, and they were perfectly cast in this movie. And then just seeing this beautiful melanated cast and these beautiful black people on set and, you know, singing, dancing, acting their faces off, I enjoyed every single moment of that. But in terms of it being an adaptation of the Color Purple musical, I gotta say, I'm a little disappointed. And I couldn't like pinpoint my feelings after I saw the movie because I enjoyed what I saw. And like I said, there were moments that I cried, but at the same time, part of me is like, I felt kind of hollow in a certain extent. And part of the reason I felt that way is because even though this movie was damn near 2.5 hours long, just like the musical is damn near 2.5 hours long, the things that they cut in this movie, I feel like lessened the movie in a certain extent. And I guess this is spoilers because The Color Purple, the movie itself, is damn near 30 plus years old, almost 40 years old, because what, it came out in 1985. I was born in 1985 and I'm 38. So the movie is 38 years old, pretty much. So it's the same storyline, basically. So spoilers for the movie, but I guess not really spoiled, because if you haven't seen the Broadway musical, you wouldn't understand this. But like, there are certain songs from the Broadway musical that they cut that I feel like lessened at least my enjoyment from the movie. If you have no connection or don't know the Broadway musical, then maybe you would go into this movie absolutely loving it. It wouldn't bother you as much. But because I know the Broadway musical and because I watched the original movie, there are certain songs that go with the Broadway musical and go with the movie that because they cut it, it like lessened and limited and lowered the emotional connection to these characters and to the moments that they were trying to create in this story. And then also, well, actually, I'll come back to that. Like, so for example, again, and this is spoilers, I'm just gonna go through the movie and talk about why I was disappointed. So like, for example, there's a big number that Celie does at the very end of the song that always has me crying every time I listen to Fantasia sing it, whether I'm in the car or watching her in the theater. I wish I got to see her on Broadway. When I went to go see it on Broadway, she wasn't Celie, but that song still has me crying. But the song that she sings at the very end is I'm Here. And she's basically, this is Celie finally coming into her power and finally declaring that after everything that she's been through, she's finally accepting herself. She says, I'm beautiful. And that's supposed to be a powerful moment because throughout the entire movie, and whether it's the musical, the book, or the original movie, she's constantly being told, you're ugly, you ain't worth nothing, you're not worth nothing. And she believed it herself until she finally gets to the end and she's like, I'm beautiful. I'm gonna flirt with somebody when they walk by. I'm gonna sing out. But in this particular movie, in the Broadway adaptation, there was only one moment in the entire movie that somebody said she's ugly or accused her of being unattractive. There was only one moment in the entire movie. Granted, there were hints at it in the movie, like for example, like they even took out the iconic line with Suge Avery when she first comes and she looks at her and she says, "You sure is ugly." They took out that line. There's just a moment where Suge just looks at her, she's like, and she's just like she gives her that look, but she doesn't say it. And so because of that, or like when Mr. Albert goes to try to marry Nettie and her father or her stepfather, we learn, says, you can't marry Nettie. Nettie's too smart. You can take Celie though, and he's in both the movie and the book. And well, I didn't read the book, but I know of it. And then also in the Broadway musical, he's like, I don't want Celie. She ugly, yada, yada, yada. And there's constantly moments of Celie being accused of ugly. So then that way, when you get to that final moment in the musical where she sings, I'm here, and she says, I'm beautiful, that's that powerful declaration because she's been told constantly throughout the story, she's ugly, she's ugly, she's ugly. She believed that she was ugly, but then she's like, I'm beautiful. Screw what everybody else has said. I actually believe now that I'm beautiful. I'm accepting my power. But in the musical, the movie version of the musical, when she says I'm beautiful, for me it fell flat because there weren't that moments of the constant belittling of her looks throughout the story. And then also, even in both the Broadway musical and the movie, that moment where Suge is having Celie try on her outfit and she has Celie look at herself in the mirror and Celie can't look at herself because she's never seen herself that way. She keeps like covering her face and covering her mouth and laughing and smiling because she feels uncomfortable. But Suge actually makes her look at herself and she's like, no, look, Celie, Miss Celie, you look beautiful, you look nice. Like, they even took that moment out of the live action adaptation of the movie. And it's just like, all those small little emotional beats, those end up adding up in the end. Like, yeah, there's small moments, but there's small moments that end up paying dividends once you get to the end. It's like, certain things like that annoyed me. Not so much annoyed. I don't want to say annoyed. Annoyed isn't the right word, but it disconnected me to the emotional connection of what these songs were trying to tell me by the end. Now, with that said, overall, I did really enjoy this musical. I would still get this musical or get this movie on Blu-ray and listening to the singing. Like I would listen to the soundtrack because again, I love Fantasia's voice as just in general, and Danielle Brooks as Sophia. Who knew that Corey, what's his face, can sing, who played Harpo, and he could dance his ass off. I was like, okay, Corey. So I would listen to them for the sake of the soundtrack. But like, yeah, I keep wanting to say annoyed. I was just disappointed by the stuff that they took out. Now, with that said, though, obviously I did enjoy the movie. To praise the movie, like, they did inject and put in some very interesting things to the movie that wasn't a part of the original movie, and then also wasn't a part of the Broadway show. Like, they gave more backstory to Celie. We actually got to see Celie's mother and what happened to her. We got to see a little bit more into Celie's head. Like, in this movie, they gave Celie an imagination. So we got to see Celie's imagination and what Celie thinks about during the moments where she's going through so many tough times and so much strife and pain and misery. We got to see way more of a development and connection between Celie and her sister Nettie, who Nettie was played by Halle Bailey. We got to see more of Nettie throughout the storyline. And so then that way, once the moment comes when Nettie and Celie got pulled away from each other, it felt a little bit more impactful in a sense. And they also gave, because, you know, obviously you got a character played by Halle Bailey. That's Ariel right there. Of course, we're gonna get a song, so they added another song for Nettie in this song, and I really like that song. I like the song that they gave Nettie, and it was a cute addition. They also gave young Celie a song that isn't in the original musical, and I like that song as well. Like, I leaned over to Frank. She was like, "Is this song in the musical?" I was like, "Yeah, this song isn't in the musical," but I really like that song, and it also showcased that actor that played Fantasia before when Celie was younger. So I mean, I like that song, but honestly, if I had to get rid of those songs to get the songs that I wanted in the musical, then I would get rid of those new songs for the original Broadway songs. And so yeah, overall, I just feel like a lot of moments and a lot of emotional moments in this live action adaptation were rushed. They were rushed through. They didn't live and let those moments, you know, let you sit in those moments as an audience member. Even the relationship between Suge and Celie, the movie almost kind of makes it seem like it was one-sided, or like Suge and Celie had like a fling, and Celie was the one that was really infatuated and obsessed and in love with Suge, but Suge was just trying to have a good time. But no, in both the book and the Broadway musical, Suge and Celie were in a relationship for years. And going back to what I was saying before about this movie not being gay enough and how I was disappointed, they didn't really showcase that. You would think, being that this movie was coming out in 2023, LGBTQ rights are way more accepting now. LGBTQ characters are way more accessible, and we see us more represented in movies, TV shows, not as much as I hope, not as much as we should be, but we are more represented. You would have thought they would have corrected where the 1985 movie went wrong, but in some ways they didn't. Like, it almost seemed the same as the 1985 movie. Now, with that said, unlike the 1985 movie, Suge and Celie did kiss. Taraji and Fantasia, they were tongue kissing. They were tonguing each other down in this movie compared to the original. And then they also woke up in bed together, but at the same time, you didn't really get the fact that they were in a relationship for decades. And this is something I found out from the book, and which they didn't really showcase in the show. Like, Suge went down on Celie. Like, she was purring in that kitty cat. Again, you didn't get that from the live action Broadway adaptation. Like, it just felt more one-sided. It just felt like Suge or Celie was the one that was obsessed with Suge, but not vice versa. It's like, no, they even took out one of Suge's songs where she says to Celie, "You're too beautiful for words." Like, again, it's just all these small emotional beats that they took out just really bothered me as I'm talking about it more and more. Like, I was talking to my friends. I was talking to Frankie. I was like, yeah, the more and more I sit away from Color Purple, the less I like it. Not to say I dislike the movie. I did like the movie, but it's just, I'd rather watch the Broadway play. I'll put it that way. Even the song, one of my favorite song from the musical, when Celie sings "I'm Here," they cut the beginning of that song. They started like towards the middle of the song. I'm just like, why did y'all do, like, I was like, that disappointed, that pissed me off. When I was, not pissed me off, that's too strong of a word, but I was just like, why is she starting in the middle of the song? Like, this is the pivotal song of this whole movie. Why did they not start from the beginning of the song? Like, the song starts, "I don't need you to love me. I don't need you to love. I've got my," like, they started where she's like, they took out that part and she just said, "I got my sister. I don't," like, I'm like, why did they start there? Like, start from the beginning of the song. Like, what are y'all doing? And I get for what they did, it makes sense of why they started there, but I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't like it. And then also going into Suge getting her power back, something that they also cut because they made Suge and Celie's relationship seem very one-sided. Because there's a moment in the musical where Suge and Celie are, like I said, they're together for decades. But eventually, Celie breaks up with Suge because Suge is a party girl. She likes to have her cake and eat it too. And even though she's in a relationship with Celie and she loves Celie, she still wants to go out and have her fun and sleep with other men. And Celie is like, no, take me or leave me. You're either gonna be with me or you're gonna be with you're either gonna be with me or you're not. Like, you going out and sleeping with other people, that's not happening. That's not happening. And Suge is like, no, but I wanna have my fun. Like, I still love you at the end of the day, but I still have my needs. I still want men. And Suge is like, okay, well, that's fine. You could go sleep with other men, but I'm leaving you. Like, and that was a powerful moment for Celie. And again, that's in the Broadway play, wasn't in the movie. Or even moments again where Suge, I keep wanting to say Suge, but even moments where Celie tells Harpo to beat Sophia, you know, and then that whole, you told Harpo to beat me, like, all of that felt rushed. Like, it was just like, we got to get to that scene. We got to get to that scene. We got to get to that moment. It's like, but this movie was 2.5 hours long. Like, I don't understand why they couldn't, or why they felt to need to rush a lot of the emotional aspects of the musical, and why they didn't live in those, like, even when you get to Mr. being physically abusive to Celie, I feel like they rushed to that as well. So, like, yeah, I just feel like they rushed a lot of the beats in this movie, but I still overall will recommend people watch this because that's just my complaints of how I felt about it. But if you've never seen the Broadway musical, you might not, or more than likely, probably won't feel the same way that I do because you have no frame of reference. Or even if you did see the Broadway musical, it probably still wouldn't affect you as much as it does me. So with that said, that's pretty much all I gotta say about it. I still recommend people check it out. And I do think that this movie does elevate the original movie, and it does feel like they have something to say, but for me personally, I don't feel like they elevate the Broadway musical. I feel like they elevate the original, but not the Broadway musical. I would rather watch the Broadway musical over this one, but I did like the songs and some of the elements that they did add. But for me, Broadway musical, movie. So, but I had fun. I enjoyed it. I really liked Fantasia as Celie. Like I said, I liked all of the characters as their respective characters. But with that said, what did you think about the musical movie version of The Color Purple? Did you see the Broadway musical? Do you feel the same way that I did if you did see the Broadway musical? What are your thoughts on both the musical, the live action movie, the original movie, all of that stuff? Let me know all of your thoughts in the comment section below. Once again, if you can, hit that thumbs up button and like this video to really help out with the YouTube algorithm, getting this video out there, getting my channel out there. And if you're one of your first time watching one of my videos, please check out the other videos on my channel. If you like what you see, please subscribe for more and tell your friends, families, and neighbors about my channel to help me continue to grow. And as always, I will catch you guys next time.